But again, what happened in Wellington in that second half really worried me around the lack of impact off the New Zealand bench. And coming up against this Wallabies team who has effectively 24 players in their team on the weekend, because their 24th player for me is their psychology, their spirit, their intensity. They're the team that stand out for me at the moment in the Rugby Championship when it comes to the mental capacity to be able to finish off games. So this bench, prior to Razor announcing the All Black team to play against the Wallabies at Eden Park on Saturday night, I was wondering whether or not we were going to see any accountability at all from what happened in Wellington against the Springboks in the second half of that particular game. Well, the team was announced, and let's go and sit in my favourite park and talk about the team, and I'll give you some of my thoughts around that particular point. This is Inside Rugby with Mark, and I'm the Kiwi rugby fan who's living here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Welcome to the show. I'm going to be talking about the All Black selection to play against the Wallabies on Saturday at Eden Park. So let's get into it right now. So before the team was announced, I was thinking a couple of things. The first one was, are we going to see any accountability after that game in Wellington against the Springboks? And secondly, are we going to see any innovation when it comes to selections and giving more players an opportunity to play in the right positions that we've all been talking about, and also some of those younger guys like Kyle Preston and also Ruben Love getting their chances to get more game time for the All Blacks? Well, the team came out, and I was probably disappointed on a couple of fronts, but let's first of all go through the team, and I'll give you my views on all of the positions and what I think, and then the overall generalisation thoughts around the team. And I want to hear your comments, of course, as always, so make sure below in the comments you get typing away and let me know what you think of this All Black team. And let's talk about some of the players that you think should be in certain positions. That's what I'm really getting at with this All Black team. Okay, so we start off in the front row, and we're going to see a change here because we're going to see Cody Taylor coming back from his concussion protocol. So we're going to see the front row of Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor and Tyrell Lomax. I didn't think Tyrell Lomax did so well in Wellington, so I want to see him really lift his game. But I think this front row will be too much for the Wallabies, and I think we'll see some penalties given at scrum time in particular, because I'm thinking Taniela Tupou, if selected for the Wallabies, is going to have a bit of a hard time in this front row battle. But let's just see how it unfolds. But I'm happy with the front row. I want to see more out of Tyrell Lomax, and I think Ethan de Groot brings that mongrel factor the All Blacks need in that front row. Okay, moving on to the locks, and we are going to see some change here. We're going to see that there is no Scott Barrett. He's out with a shoulder injury apparently, and we're going to see Fabian Holland start this game, and we're going to see Tupou Vai, Kevin Peterson's favourite guy, back in there at number 5 in this particular game. Now, I like this move. I think Fabian Holland, those couple of times coming off the bench, really didn't do it for me. I think he's the kind of guy that needs to start, and he builds his way into a game, and he's been very, very good for the All Blacks throughout the season. So I think this is good. And then Tupou Vai, well, despite his antics that I know upset a lot of you across the rugby world, he's back in there again, and I think he's playing well at lock, so leave him there. Let's see how much line-out ball these two can get for the All Blacks. That's going to be a critical part of their game. So when it comes to this tight 5 for the All Blacks, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's going to do a good job. Despite Scott Barrett not going to be there, I don't think we're going to see much of a change in terms of the overall performance. So I give this one a thumbs up. And then moving on to the back 3 and the forwards for the All Blacks, and we're going to see Simon Parker at number 6 again. We're going to see Ardie Savea at 7. He's going to be the captain of this All Black team, and we're going to see Wallace Satiti starting at number 8. Now, a lot of you have said and agreed that Ardie Savea should be the captain of this team. Well, he gets an opportunity in this particular game against the Wallabies, so let's see how the whole leadership realm goes in this particular game. Something to keep our eye on. I've been impressed with Simon Parker so far. I think he was just one of the many All Blacks that turned off in that second half against the Springboks, so let's see what he can bring against what I think is going to be a very interesting battle when it comes to the Lucies. Wallace Satiti, I think, hasn't really hit the marks of last year yet in this particular season. Of course, he's coming back from injury, and he's had a few games now, so we expect to see a little bit more out of Wallace Satiti. But I think when it comes to Wallace Satiti, I think the opposition have actually worked him out and they've actually come down a lot. So he's not making those busting runs that we saw in his breakout season for the New Zealand All Blacks. So that's the starting 8 for the All Blacks. What do I think of it overall? I think it's a good 8. They need to perform at the level we know they can. And is it going to be enough against this Wallabies outfit? Well, I think the Lucy's battle is going to be really interesting, as is the fight for line-out ball. Because if Nick Frost and Jeremy Williams are in there for the Aussies, then it's going to be a very, very good battle. And I expect it to do so. So up front, let's watch out and see whether Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor and Tyrell Lomax can get some dominance in the All Black forwards scrum time and see whether or not they can win some penalties. That's something that I'll be looking for in the game. Okay, now let's move on to the backline, and we're talking first of all about the 9 and 10 combination. What was Razor going to do here with Cam Roigard being available again now for selection? Well, he's straight back in there at number 9, and Beauden Barrett is going to be number 10. So a lot of you have been talking about this could be the thing that ignites the All Black backline by having Cam Roigard in there again. I agree to a certain extent. I think his sniping runs, he can confuse defences. He can beat defences by himself, as we've seen on a number of occasions where he can score tries. His kicking game is good as well. So compared to a Finlay Christie or someone like that, Roigard brings a completely different dimension for this All Black side. And let's see whether or not it is the catalyst to get this All Black backline away. Beauden Barrett, for me, is still struggling, I think, on different occasions in that number 10 jersey. While the All Blacks were under attack last week by the Springboks, we didn't see Beauden Barrett do anything significantly to change the game, to swing the momentum back in the All Blacks' favour. In fact, we were kicking a lot of ball away, which the Springboks were absolutely delighted with, and they kept running in tries in that second half, didn't they? So that was something I was disappointed in Beauden Barrett's play last weekend. And if you looked at some of the teams that I've been putting out for the All Blacks that I want to see play for the All Blacks, I've put Beauden Barrett on the bench. That's where I think he should be now, as we're starting to head towards the Rugby World Cup in 2027. So that's the 9 and 10 combination. Now let's move out to the midfield. And has Razor made any changes here? Well, the answer is no, he hasn't. So we're going to see Jordie Barrett at 12, and we're going to see Billy Proctor at 13. Some of you said in the comments after the last game that you thought Billy Proctor had his best game in an All Black jersey. Well, I still think there needs to be a sense of accountability around what happened in Wellington, and I've been saying throughout my videos on a consistent basis that I'm still not happy with the 12 and 13 combination for the All Blacks. I would rather see Jordie Barrett go to 15 and give us a real strong presence there, and I'd like to see a new combination tried at 12 and 13. But we are going to see Jordie Barrett and we're going to see Billy Proctor at 13 this weekend. So moving out to the wings now, and we're going to see the return of Caleb Clark. Yes, he's back. Played a couple of games for Auckland in the NPC, and Razor's put him straight back into the team to play on his own ground at Eden Park. So we'll see how Caleb Clark goes. Obviously, he's been brought in as well for his skills under the high ball, and I'm sure that's an area that Australia are going to be peppering the All Blacks with on Saturday at Eden Park. On the other wing, we're going to see Leroy Carter, so he's moving over from the left wing to the right wing. And at fullback, we're going to see Will Jordan in there at fullback again. So again, this is not the back line in terms of what I would have picked, but Razor's not making any changes. He's obviously giving these guys an opportunity to redeem themselves, and there doesn't seem to be a theme of accountability in this All Black team when they have repetitively poor performances. And I'm not just talking about what happened against South Africa. We don't have to go far back to remember that game against Argentina in Buenos Aires either, to remember how the All Blacks fell off that game and no one was really held accountable for it. So there we go, that's the All Blacks starting 15. What do I think of this backline? Well, with Cam Roigard in there, are we going to see a different kind of backline from the All Blacks? Is he going to bring that something different that's going to help them ignite the backline? We can only wait and see. I'm not going to speculate whether or not that's going to be a reality for the All Blacks. Okay, so the All Blacks like to talk about the impact players that come off the bench. They don't call it the bench anymore. So let's have a look at the impact players and let's see whether they can live up to their name, because they haven't been doing it in recent games. So the front row that's going to come on, we're going to see Samisoni Takiaho, we're going to see Tomaiti Williams, and we're going to see Fletcher Newell. So a good front row, but again, they haven't been playing to their potential, and that seems to be the problem with this All Black team at the moment. You know, on paper you think, yeah, these guys are the guys that can get the job done, but they simply haven't been delivering the consistency that we need from these players off the bench. So once again, we'll have to see how these three guys go in the front row, but they should mark up well against their Australian opponents on the weekend when they come on. The question for me is, when are they going to be used, and is Razor going to give them enough time to do the job? That's something we need to keep an eye out on in this particular game. And then the other two forwards that we're going to come seeing off the bench are going to be Patrick Tuipulotu's back. Thank goodness for that. I really love Patrick Tuipulotu. I think he's been playing outstanding rugby. Of course, he's been unlucky with injuries since he's had that All Black jersey, but he's back this weekend, so I think that's a great move for the All Blacks. He is going to bring impact off the bench. And then we're going to see the other forward is going to be Peter Lakai. So that's an interesting one coming from the Hurricanes. And we'll see whether Peter Lakai, who a lot of you I know rate very highly, and think that he's the guy that can bring the presence the All Blacks need off the bench. So this is a big job for these guys. We know that Australia is exceptionally good in the second half. They finish off games really well. So these guys that are coming off the bench, they need to deliver. That's what we want from these guys. We want to see that impact. The New Zealand All Blacks used to be fantastic at closing out games. We have lost that aura. There's no doubt about it. And teams can run over the top of us now in the last 30 minutes of a game. So these guys are going to have to come on and try and stop that Australian juggernaut that I expect to happen in the second half of this game. So off the bench for the All Blacks, well, the halfback is going to be Kotez Ratama. He's coming back from that injury. Let's hope it's not too soon and that he is fully fit to go. So he's going to be back in there. And then we're going to see Quinn Tupaia and we're going to see Damien McKenzie. So again, I'm not so excited about these three coming off the bench. We'll have to wait and see what happens, whether or not they do get an opportunity to really shine in this game. But again, what happened in Wellington in that second half really worried me around the lack of impact off the New Zealand bench. And coming up against this Wallabies team who has effectively 24 players in their team on the weekend, because their 24th player for me is their psychology, their spirit, their intensity. They're the team that stand out for me at the moment in the Rugby Championship when it comes to the mental capacity to be able to finish off games. So this bench really need to be on point for the All Blacks. So I'm going to be heavily scrutinising their performance in the last 30 minutes of this game or whenever they come on. So what do I think overall about this selection from Razor? Well, I think again it's conservative. Again, there's no Ruben Love. Again, there's no Kyle Preston. These guys are not getting a chance consistently in the All Black jersey. Now, if you're not going to start these guys in games, when are they going to get their opportunity? I know a lot of you will say, yeah, but they'll go on the Northern Tour and they'll get game time then. But will they? Because Razor seems to be intent on trying to win every game. And it comes at the expense of not giving these guys consistent game time. We're seeing the same backline again this weekend, and we're not seeing any movement of positions other than Jordan going back to 15, but that's only to make way of Caleb Clark. We're seeing Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor again at 12 and 13, and they haven't done anything outstanding at all, in my opinion, in this year's Rugby Championship. So it's going to be really interesting to see those two particular players up against Len Ekitau and Joseph Sua Ali at Eden Park in the weekend, because those guys are absolutely on fire. So Razor's probably rolled the dice and said, okay, I'm going to give the guys an opportunity to redeem themselves. We know what we did wrong. We've got a new captain in Adi Savia this weekend, so is he going to be able to drive the leadership group? Is he going to be able to make the noise and lead by example on the field so the other players get behind him and battle into the trenches and try and take this Wallabies team down? Well, only time will tell us on the weekend. Now, once I've seen the Wallabies team, I'll do a preview show for this particular game, and I'll talk more about what I expect the strategic intent to be from both teams, some of the matchups that we need to look out for. But I wanted to make this video to show you the All Black team that's come out if you haven't seen it, and talk about some of those positional changes that I've just mentioned. So let me know in the comments what you think of the All Black team that's been announced by Razor to play against the Wallabies at Eden Park on Saturday. Is it good enough to keep the Bledisloe Cup? Is it good enough to keep the record of the Eden Park streak going? Or do you think the Wallabies could surprise this All Black team, even though they've been decimated yet again by more injuries? And I'll talk more about that when I do the preview show coming up soon. So there we go. That's my thoughts around the All Blacks team to play this weekend. Drop me a comment. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel and you enjoy my content, please do so. Give this video a thumbs up, it helps me with the algorithm on YouTube. And don't forget, we're starting United Rugby Fans, a global mission to bring in 500 million rugby fans from across the world to have a voice in the say of what happens in world rugby. And that's going to be a very important project for anybody that loves the game of rugby. And if you want to know more about that, just drop me a comment and I will get in touch with you. Okay, that's it for this particular episode. I'll see you again really soon as we build up to round 5 of this year's Rugby Championship competition. It's going to be an exciting round, that's for sure, both in Durban and at Eden Park in New Zealand. And I'll see you all again soon in the next video. Until then, it's adios from me from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Bye for now, everyone.